Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today, I want to talk about an oft-forgotten classic in the survival horror genre, Dino Crisis 2. This was a late PS1 release. It dropped literally almost right before the PS2, coming out in September 2000. And honestly, to me, it's arguably one of the best PS1 games ever made. And while it's a very brief game, it's packed with so much fun and just wildly creative ideas, plus a very off-the-rails story. I did buy this game when it came out, despite not having much of an affinity for the first game. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the survival horror games from the era like Resident Evil 2 and 3 and Silent Hill, but as a kid I was just painfully bad at them, so Dino Crisis 1 just didn't click with me as much as something like Silent Hill did for whatever reason. Now, despite playing this game feeling like a dream because it was so long ago, I do recall blasting through this game and constantly talking about it with my best friend who bought it on the very same day I did. Then, despite those fond memories, I just never really returned to it until now, so that is why I present you with my Dino Crisis 2 review in 2025. But let's briefly talk about Dino Crisis 1. Capcom was the absolute king of survival horror during the 5th generation. You can pretty much thank Resident Evil for that. The series did not create survival horror, but it definitely brought it into the spotlight and defined it with the original Resident Evil in 1996. Then they just continued to expand upon that with the sequels. So then, Capcom released Dino Crisis 1 in 1999, which basically took the Resident Evil formula and switched out zombies for dinosaurs. If I had to guess, I think this is probably because of just how popular Jurassic Park was. It really just triggered this kind of dino craze in the mid to late 90s. And this is actually kind of funny. That's actually the very first movie I ever remember seeing in theaters when I was way too young to see it. I just wanted to see it that bad. Anyway, Dino Crisis 1 was slow, a little eerie, and filled with the puzzles, intense combat that veterans would know from Resident Evil. But for whatever reason, Capcom didn't really want to repeat that effort and decided to take Dino Crisis 2 into new territory. What Dino Crisis you prefer will probably just depend on your nostalgia and whether you prefer that more slow, methodical gameplay or the faster-paced action/arcade experience of the sequel. And before we get into that action, I'm going to briefly cover the story, very briefly. Regina, the main character of Dino Crisis 1, ends up meeting up with the special forces group called TRAT, T-R-A-T, to investigate the disappearance of a city. This leads to a weird turn of events where mysterious time travelers end up disabling their ship and leave them stranded in dinosaur country. Yes, the story is really wacky here. It involves time travel and other elements, and honestly, I can't say I loved it, but it was kind of entertaining in a cheesy way. But thankfully, it does usually take a backseat to the gameplay. What players might love or hate, though, about the story is the mediocre voice acting and the awkward dialogue filled with 90s stereotypes like this.
Maybe we can open the gate manually.
Whoa! Let the men handle this. Let's go, bro.
Fine. You boys, play nice now.
Or just plain cringe dialogue like this.
I rule! Bingo! Dylan, let's go back.
Yep, there's definitely some charm here, but the highlight really is the gameplay. Players will figure out in moments that this game is way faster than Dino Crisis 1. You're dealing with mobs of dinosaurs, and your resources, while they can run out and deplete, are not as much of a concern because you can buy new guns and equipment and ammo and consumables all at save points. Killing dinosaurs alone wouldn't really be that exciting though, so what Capcom did to get around this is they dug into their arcade roots and they brought in a scoring system. You score points for the dinosaurs you kill, but you also get bonuses for counterattacks, combos, and not taking any damage, and that last one's the huge one. You don't want to take damage to rack up a lot of points. If you play well, you'll get more points and can upgrade your equipment faster and more easily, and it makes the challenge more manageable. Now, I found this system to be incredibly fun and incredibly rewarding. Yes, the first hour was honestly brutal because I had to really readjust to those tank controls, hadn't played them in a very long time, and needing to run and gun while dealing with multiple enemies was just a lot for my fingers to handle until I figured out the controls. I was taking damage almost every screen and not racking up that many points. However, once I adjusted to the controls, it became much more fun to try to farm experience and just rip through waves of dinosaurs. And yes, for those wondering, you cannot change the controls. They're tank controls. There's no way around this. However, the controls are really smooth and responsive for what they are. You can auto-aim by tapping R1 twice, and you can do a 180 by hitting R2. But I will say that for me personally, swarms of enemies could still pose a challenge in terms of me not taking damage. I don't know if this is me just being total noob again with tank controls, or if this is the way Capcom intended the game to play. Either way, what I would say the bottom line is you don't need to play perfectly by any means, and you can replay rooms to get more points if you ended up kind of making a mistake. It's all manageable, and the challenge is even fairer since healing items are pretty common, and you can actually use what's called resuscitation packs to allow you to revive from the beginning of a room if you die in it. One of the highlights of this game is just the enemy variety. You're going to start by mowing down hordes of raptors, but you're going to encounter a bunch of other dinosaurs like pterodactyls, plesiosaurus, allosauruses, T-rexes, and others. I was just really impressed with the dinosaurs, their animations, their movements, and just the strategy you need to fend off different dinosaurs. For example, with Regina, I was racking up stupid points with the light machine guns against the Pleosauruses. But at the end, when I was dealing with hordes of raptors in the second half of the game, I don't know if the raptors got stronger, but my weapon seemed really, really ineffective against them, especially when there's a bunch of raptors coming at me at once. Conversely, try to use the shotgun with Dylan against hordes of pterodactyls. You probably will fail because they're going to either evade your shots or fly off screen, but if you got something like a flamethrower, you're in luck. There's also some really fun rail shooter sections that break up the action, and the bosses here are all really good. I enjoyed every single one of them. None of them are really just shoot the dinosaur until it dies. No, they all require kind of a unique strategy that utilizes your environment in some way to overcome the dinosaur that should rip you to shreds. So I never felt like I was doing the same thing too long, and the variety of combat scenarios just really blew me away, especially considering how short this game is. I want to end this section now by talking about purchasing items, because there's a lot you can spend your points on, and it's crucial to enjoying the game. You can buy new guns for Regina and Dylan, and they both have their own unique guns. You can also buy consumables like healing items, you can restock ammo, or increase the ammo capacity of your weapons, and finally you can also buy tools. Tools are kind of just various items. You have stuff like armor that can stop bleeding, or cards that can increase your points, and you can also upgrade your secondary weapons. So there's a lot of stuff you can spend your points on that increase your ability to survive and beat the game more easily.
You again? Persistent thing, aren't you?
And yes, I want to talk about the replayability a bit here because I think it's kind of critical to this genre. First, it's no secret that many games from this era just are much shorter than their modern counterparts. Developers would usually, in the 90s, early 2000s, they might have boosted the replay value with stuff like collectibles, side modes, and kind of New Game Plus options. Dino Crisis 2, when all is said and done, is about a 5 to 7 hour experience for someone playing it for the first time. It's short, and despite how much is crammed into that time, I was really surprised when I saw the credits roll. I was like, wow, is that it? I thought there would be another area because I've only played the game for 5.5 hours. Dino Crisis 2 does have a little bit to add on top of that though. There is a Coliseum mode after you beat the game. This allows you to play as a host of characters, and I think you can even control dinosaurs. I didn't end up buying those, so I'm not sure, but I think you can. And it's really just like this virtual reality realm where you just fight through hordes of dinosaurs or foes until you die. It's just kind of a fun extra mode. If you do find all 11 dinosaur files in the game, you can get unlimited ammo in your next run, but no, there's no New Game Plus here. That felt a little disappointing, especially since most of the Resident Evil games had kind of cool New Game Plus options or stuff that seemed to make it more fun to replay. Here you basically just replay the game. But players who love this game can definitely replay it to try to better their time and score, or find all those dino files. Otherwise, it's a short affair, not gonna lie. It's a great game though, and it's a great game for people who are pressed for time, because 5 to 7 hours isn't a huge commitment. But considering that the asking price is over $100 for an original copy of this game, that playtime might feel pretty slim to some of you.
Dylan, over here.
So here are my final thoughts on Dino Crisis 2. I had a total blast returning to this game. The fun factor is so high. And it really is just like a cool ode to the 20th century and all that dinosaur hype that Jurassic Park stirred up. And honestly, as I get older, I like the survival horror genre more and more, so I can't say that I kind of prefer Dino Crisis 2 to Silent Hill or Resident Evil 2 or 3, but the arcade-style point system and fast-paced running gun action is amazing in its own right, and the amount of dinosaurs and variety really just propel this game to greatness. Though I do kind of lament the lack of challenge in any of the puzzles, but it's clear that Capcom was going for accessibility with this game, which honestly does contrast it pretty nicely to their other PS1 survival horror efforts, which feel a little bit more slow and methodical. Yes, the short playtime and the lack of New Game Plus do bring this score down a little bit for me, but anyone who just wants a quick 5 to 7 hours of fun would be pretty hard pressed to find much better than Dino Crisis 2. The other pro or con, depending on who you are, is the controls and graphics. You need to readjust to the tank controls to enjoy this game, and the graphics are obviously dated at this point, but that said, I do think this game looks really amazing for a PS1 game. The character polygons are well formed, the dinosaurs look great, especially their animations, and the backgrounds are full of lush details once you get used to looking at them again. I absolutely recommend playing this if you can handle retro PS1 titles or like dinosaurs or survival horror. It's feasible, I think, that this will appear on PS Plus in the future. I mean, the first game's on there for $10 right now, but as of right now, outside of emulation, the only option is to fork over $100 for an original copy on the PS1. Well, that's going to do it for today, guys. Please let me know what your thoughts are in this game and whether or not you think it was a wise choice for Capcom to move away from survival horror with this game, or whether you much prefer the more slower, methodical first Dino Crisis game. Alright guys, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. It really does help keep this small channel alive, and catch you next time. Game on.